What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Jewell. I'm here in Future History Labs. Today we are discussing racial climate in our country and how racism is contributing to everything that's going on. The reason I'm making these panel discussions is because I feel so strongly about at least bringing awareness. We need to hear everyone's perspectives, how they think, what they feel, and respect where they're coming from, even if we don't agree with it. I love too many people in my life to ignore the issues that are going on. So I do hope from the sincerity of my heart that you can watch these panels and discussion and really genuinely connect, understand, and go forth with a better view of the world and how we can love. I want to introduce today our panelists. We have Joy Kingsley. Tell us maybe a little bit about you as Joy and, the owner of Kingsley Models, and who you are in this community.
I am Joy Kingsley eBay, owner and CEO of Kingsley Models. I'm also a wardrobe stylist nationally. My family's from Nigeria, born there. Family moved to London, moved to New York, Maryland, Virginia, DC. So I've kind of had many experiences throughout different cultures. I am a Black voice. I am a woman, and I'm a human.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I feel so honored to even have you here. Howie Teeger is the CEO of NYX Entertainment and Events. So, Howie, do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are first?
Sure. My name is Howie Teeger. I'm the president and creative director for NYX Entertainment and Events, originally from Brooklyn, New York, then Long Island, and now our nation's capital. We run a event and entertainment production company. I am thrilled to be here. It's just, wow, don't even know where we are in the world today.
I'm so excited to have you guys in here because I don't think you necessarily have different perspectives, but just perspectives that people need to hear, especially being not just leaders, but CEOs. And I think people need to hear from people like you because we care about people in general. You know what I'm saying? So I'm assuming you probably haven't been to any protests because the pandemic in the world.
It's such a weird thing because you have society as a whole just pent up, ready to get out to begin with. And it was like a powder keg. In my opinion, I do not believe that this is all organic either. We're in an election year, and the Democrats were trying to get Trump out with a series of different things. I'm not going to say it's just Democrats. It could be Republicans who are not in line with the president, but you have the George Floyd thing, which I know is what we're talking about. And you have people who are legitimately out there to protest a very serious problem in this country. And then you have people behind the scenes that we don't know about that are secretly instigating and amplifying and causing violence, which should have no place in this. Martin Luther King changed the world with no violence. Looting and all this other stuff, it's like you turn on the news, you can't watch the news anymore.
So that's also what I wanted to talk about. I'm just open. I want to hear the entire story because I want to be 100% educated. I've been to protests on Monday, and I know Joy went to a protest. The protest I went to on Monday was completely peaceful.
Same.
It was very amazing.
Same.
I was so moving to see so many people come together for human life, right? So what was your experience being out in a protest?
My experience was beautiful. And what I loved was there was a lot of white people there. That was very encouraging to see. I did keep my eyes open for those rioters and looters and those instigators that are there not for the right cause, but nothing bad happened while we were there. And I've gone through every protest and march that has happened, the women's march, the whole nine, and it's always been love and always been peaceful. It goes back to what you said about Martin Luther King was peaceful protesting, and he came with dialogue and he came with solutions. But guess what happened to him? He was murdered. So I always find it interesting that the people that are oppressing always want to tell the oppressed how we should riot, how we should protest, how we should feel. I was watching something recently that Tupac had said, and he's like, it's like we're locked inside and they're having a party and feeding themselves outside the door. And we're like, damn, but I'm hungry too. And they're like, nope, but they're dangling all the good food in front of you. A week later, you're like, damn, I'm still hungry. No one's listening to you. Then you're like, months later, I'm hungry, feed me. Nothing's happening. Then you're like, damn it, you're breaking through the doors. Now you want to go get the food. I don't agree with rioting and looting and messing up properties. But sometimes, if it's the only way for the world to hear us, then maybe what the world needs to hear. I have had to silence myself for so long. There's so many parts of racism that I think white America doesn't even see. I'm an educated Black woman. I have accolades that an average person can't even scratch the tip of the surface with. But I had to achieve all those things to be looked at, not even as equal, but just okay. When I step into a room and I'm the only Black person there, I have to immediately put on my mask to disarm them. We go through trauma every single day when we wake up, when we see something else racist. We need white people to stop looking at us as if we are a threat. Recondition your brain to unlearn the things that you have been taught. I'm finding a lot of white people are reaching out to me, which I appreciate. I'm so open to dialogue with you. My mask is off now, and I'm going to be unapologetically Black. And if it makes a white person uncomfortable, so be it, because I've been uncomfortable ever since I stepped foot in this country.
I want to kind of hop over to how maybe to just express yourself and how you feel the climate of our country is going, and what is maybe your past experience, because we're talking about past experiences right now, and then we'll move on to the future.
First thing I will say is we're in America. And I know you come from Nigeria, as people come from all over the world. As someone who's been around the world a few times, I can say this is by far the best country in the world. People come here because if you can dream it and you've got hustle, you can achieve it. That being said, we have a broken society. I do believe that I have seen a shift, and I believe that the situation has improved. We had a Black president, one of my favorite. If this was 75, a Black man would never get elected. He would never even be considered. Now, in recent years, not only did an African American run, but actually won. It shows that we're making improvement. However, we definitely have problems. People need to educate themselves, and they need to exercise their own personal common sense. I can't imagine what she's going through, no more than she could imagine what it is to be a white person growing up.
But it's kind of
You know,
great.
I don't come from money. You know that everything that I've achieved in my life and my company was built off of my hustle. But I also was never discriminated against, maybe a little bit in the 70s because I'm Jewish. Other than minor issues with that, I've been relatively able to hustle and achieve what I want. I can't claim to know how she feels, but I empathize. And as a business owner, out of my close to almost 80 employees, I would say 75% are African American. You're a talented, good person. It doesn't matter to me whether you're Black, white, purple, or an alien.
And you're thinking of it from a business standpoint. I think socially, a lot of people want to be recognized for their color.
See, I don't have the luxury of walking into a room and my color not announcing me before I enter. Any judgments that anyone has or any preconceived notions, they've already put it in their head. I know what you're saying. You're not using your color to discriminate, and that's great, and we need more of that. But we also just need people to stop trying to say that as a way to justify that they're not racist. The problem that we have today stems from white America pretending not to see our color, therefore, they're not doing the work to understand what it really is like to be Black. I have been shocked by how shocked white people have been by George Floyd. But I also understand we live in two Americas, and there's white America and Black and minority America. Everything in this country is organized based on your race and the color of your skin. We see color, and we just have to still hire someone based on their merits, based on their ability to do the job. So there's one thing that I try to do when clients reach out to me and they want to hire some models, and they may say, hey, we're looking for Caucasian models, or we're looking for this, anything but Black, but I'm going to put some Black people in that package just in case, because you need to see that the Black person can market your brand just as well. If you don't have the same type of moral code that I do, I don't want to work with you. And that's what this agency was founded on.
So that is a great segue into talking about business and how, I was talking to her right before you came about how I think it was in the 20s that a group of white protesters went into Black Wall Street and completely destroyed completely destroyed Black Wall Street. And that was in the 20s. So now we're talking 100 years later. Well, that was our grandparents or parents or whatever the age range may be. And then, that makes the next generation, That's not many generations to recover from a complete destruction of an entire. And Black Wall Street, for those of you who are watching, was a place where the richest Black people in the country were building their businesses.
First banks.
And they were completely destroyed, right? So because they were completely destroyed, then they had to rebuild and regrow. But maybe we can talk a little bit, and I'll start with Howie real quick, of how we can start to giving back to our Black communities and communities of multicultural.
I know this is going to start trouble the second the words leave my mouth, and
Well, that's why we have
I'm
you here, right?
well, I'm a New Yorker. I don't see the racism in my industry.
We're talking about entertainment, though.
Entertainment. So it's such a liberal world. It's equal
not
there in the industries that I play in that sandbox. It's so liberal.
But it's not as liberal, right? And the problem is, there's a lot of times in this industries where the Black person may not be getting paid as much as a white person, or there are other hoops that we have to jump through. And I kind of feel the same way as you, because I'm in the fashion industry, the entertainment industry. I'm surrounded by my peers of all different races and the whole nine. So I do feel some safety there. So I 100% agree with you in that regard. But there is still financial gaps that may come within that are the underlying racism that is there. If you ask all of these entertainers what racism they experience, you will be floored. And I challenge you to ask them that, because what this country likes to do is use our entertainers because we are the best. We appropriate all of our stuff and then we don't let them pay. Blackout Tuesday was about the record industry appropriating Blackness, using us for our money. But guess who gets the short end of the stick? The Black artists. So the racism is everywhere. Everyone just has to open their eyes to see it.
How immediately here in DMV can we give back to our communities, by supporting Black owned corporations, small businesses, and things like that?
I mean, here's something that I thought about, and don't mean to stir up shit. I want to ask an honest question. Okay, everything's George Floyd, and I apologize for not educating myself. Who was the gentleman, the African American gentleman, who was killed just 3 weeks ago for jogging through his
Ahmaud Arbery.
neighborhood? How come that didn't spark? Why George Floyd? George Floyd was being arrested. Okay, there was a crime committed. This man was just jogging
There
through
was an
his
alleged
neighborhood.
crime committed.
To me, that was
I can
so
speak to
much
that.
worse.
Can you say the names of any other the Black people? Trayvon Martin or Breonna
Trayvon
Taylor?
Martin, Freddie
Right.
Gray.
So
I mean,
listen,
they're all there, yeah.
we are emotionally drained. There was outrage amongst us for Ahmaud Arbery. We protested. It just didn't make the news like this one did.
Well, it was like as soon as something new comes along, all of a sudden, oh, this is the new shiny thing that we want to pitch.
3 Black people were killed. We didn't even have the time to digest Ahmaud Arbery, then Breonna Taylor hit. We didn't even have the time to digest her, then George Floyd hit. You know why this one is more of an outrage? Because white people got outraged this time. White people saw this man was unarmed and handcuffed. 3 officers kneeled on his back to his neck and cut off everything this man could do. He pled for his life. He pled for his mother. It made white people wake up to see what they have closed their eyes to for decades. God knows what my father experienced that he kept from us.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Do you think that there's a difference in the interaction between police and a white suspect versus police and a Black suspect?
Yes, 1,000%.
Now, hold on a second. I'm not going where you think I'm going. I'm not going to say, do you think the police handle it differently? What I want to ask you is, do you think a white suspect reacts or treats the police differently than a Black suspect does?
No, and I'll give you plenty of examples. Remember when all the white people were outraged because of the pandemic and they were stuck at home, and then they go to the capital of their states with guns and they're yelling at the cops, spitting in their faces, and nothing happens? How about the white kid that they just did a manhunt for? He shot 2 people and they chased him, finally caught him in Maryland.
Are you talking about the college kid up in Rhode Island?
He was arrested with no incident. Then let's not talk about the white kid, Dylan, I think his name, that went into the Black church and shot everyone in there. And the cops picked him up, took him to Burger King before they arrested him. Do you think they're giving that grace to a black man?
I think you're talking. I think those are very isolated incidents.
They're not isolated. You're saying something that is so wrong. Now you're putting the blame back on the black man. Hold on, let me
No,
finish.
I'm
Let me
not.
finish.
I'm just trying to understand it.
So I'm trying to make you understand. Black people have been afraid of cops and white people since slavery. They are the biggest terrorists in this country. And natural instinct sometimes may be to run, even if you're not doing anything. George Floyd allegedly was using a counterfeit $20 bill. He lost his life for $20. Let that sink in. When a cop pulls me over, I'm scared to death. Going back to your point, you say that maybe we're not doing the right things. That's not what your exact words, but in a nutshell. George Floyd, he didn't resist arrest. What does a black person have to do to not be killed by the hands of the people that have sworn an oath to protect them?
So let's talk a little bit about policing. Do you think, Howie, that police are given too much power, or do you think that we're in a good place with our policing?
I happen to have a lot of close friends, especially from New York, that are NYPD. And these guys are great. But I also know some cops that, quite frankly, are dicks. They look at the badge as a sign of power. There are people that don't, that have ill intentions. Do they exercise the same power over a white person over a black person? Sure, but they'll definitely push the limits with a black person, because if they try to pull me over, they might be on a power trip, but I can back that down
The color
because
of your skin.
education wise, I could turn around and say, first of all, my amendment right, you cannot do that. Where they might try to take advantage or push someone of a
But
minority.
they're arresting senators, presidents, they're arresting educated people. So you telling me those educated blacks don't know how to talk to a white cop that
No,
has less
I'm
education than
saying
them?
I believe that overall, most of them get involved to do this job because they want to do good.
No.
You know, people become police officers for one of two reasons. Either it's a family thing. Other ones, like my friend Eric, he became a police officer just because he wanted to do good. I do believe, though, that they need to be educated more in racial sensitivity. They shouldn't prosecute one more than the other either.
The whole police system has to be reformed. There needs to be a nationwide system of how cops should be cops should treat and behave. There maybe should be an educational system because a lot of these cops come straight out of high school.
People have to exercise their own personal common sense. Number one, a lot of people of every color are consuming their media through social networking. First of all, what is Facebook? What is Instagram, Snapchat? All of these, they're people's personal opinions. I don't need someone's personal opinion for me to make up my own mind. Just tell me the facts. Let me make up my mind. Let me educate myself.
I think there's a lot of sensationalism that is going on. We're making protests that could be peaceful and we're not paying attention to them. Instead of focusing on the issue, we're focusing on the destruction that this is causing because of an issue that we think is all based off of.
But are we going deeper than the facts, right? And I think you made excellent points, right? And I do think it's up to us to do more research. I woke up this morning to pictures of some white kids who were playing with their other white kids and imitating George Floyd's murder with a knee in his neck. They think that's a joke. It's not a joke that a black man lost his life that way, but there are people that are making it a joke. And I do agree with the media, they sensationalize it. But the
But you know
biggest
what the
change has to come.
sensationalizing does? When they show the looting, which has nothing to do with George Floyd, even his own brother got on the news and said, please stop this. This is not what my brother would have wanted. When you sensationalize people running out of Louis Vuitton carrying bags, it inflames the situation. It
But see,
incites more
I don't forget
racism.
what we're fighting for.
Yeah.
Even though I see the rioting and the looting, what I'm trying to work on, and I'm working on it with friends, is how we can further push change and how we can start repealing some of these laws that are systematically holding back our black brothers and sisters, like marijuana laws that have locked up so many young black people because now marijuana is becoming legal in so many states.
I mean, the
And
same
people,
law that ruined their lives, that now you could go into a store and buy a bag of
exactly,
weed.
and profit.
Yeah.
So why don't we change those laws and let all those people out? If they are nonviolent criminals, let them out, right?
Because the AG is afraid that if they overturn those convictions, all of the convictions that they have had would then be scrutinized. They're worried about their track record.
So I want to pause. I love this conversation. I think it's really good. We're not going to convince anybody, and we're not going to bring awareness if we're all just like, peace and love. That's not what's going to happen. People really need to see all this.
Let's talk about privilege. Privilege is being able to turn off the TV and not think about this. I can't not think about this because my life is at stake and my brothers and sisters' lives are at stake, right? Just not being judged first by the color of your skin. I don't have the same loan opportunities to me because I'm Black. And you said earlier you worked hard, you came from nothing. Hold on, let me finish.
I ain't from privilege, that's for sure. Other than the fact that my skin might be white, there's no privilege.
I get it. But listen, but there is privilege in that because race wasn't one of the things that held you back. When half the employees that were Black in my government made less money than their white counterparts, and these Black individuals had master's degrees, that's privilege. When I have to work harder in a job interview, that's privilege. I had to fight for every salary increase that I ever earned, but I watched my white counterparts just get it handed to them. And those are the things that I'm saying white America doesn't see. Every day of our life is a fight. Use your white privilege to help. Even if your white privilege was not, you didn't grow up with a silver spoon in your mouth or whatever, you have a privilege, and you have the best privilege of all because you're a white male.
I want to talk a little bit about the white privilege as well, because I feel like I've done a lot of research, especially because I'm doing these panels, and I want to be very educated when I'm talking about, and doing my research has truly opened my mind. Because what before, maybe not now, but in the past years that I felt like white fragility and white privilege was made me defensive. You know, and I think white people need to hear that. I became defensive. The reality is, in many situations that I've personally been in, was pulled over and my boyfriend was Cuban. We both didn't have our seatbelts on. I even had my hood up. Guess who got a ticket? I was driving. He got a ticket. I didn't. That was crazy. And I was 16, and that's privilege. Yep. For example, I was at a club. My boyfriend was being provoked, got into a fight. They were both Black, put my boyfriend in cuffs. I used my white privilege and begged him out of those cuffs, and guess what? They let him out of those cuffs.
Yeah, I think the other problem that we have right now is everybody is hyper sensitive to everything. We are just looking for things to argue and fight about as a society.
Well, I, for one, don't want to fight. And, and here's the best way that I can relate what Black people feel every day. When you are constantly on edge, worrying about what is going to meet you when you go out. What is today going to be? Is it going to be subtle racism, or is it going to be in your face racism? Is it going to be in jail racism, or is it going to be I'm murdered racism? Everyone now has probably heard about the talk that every Black family has to have with their kids. My sister's kids are the exact age right now that my siblings and I were when my father was murdered. 9, 11, 13. We have told them how you have to work harder in school. You have to be smarter. You have to be strong. Be proud of your Black skin. That is a reality for us. These conversations are not being had and do not need to be had in a white home.
A lot of the problems that we are facing as a country, and this has nothing to do with color, is people individually educating themselves, not listening to other people's opinions and forming their opinions from someone else's skewed opinion, but forming their own opinions based on the facts. That is the first step in ending racism, because you'll end ignorance, and ignorance is what fuels racism.
And education starts at home with the parents, and then it also starts with reforming the educational system, because the educational system doesn't teach the truth. I looked at my niece's history book one time, and they were talking about slavery, and they had pictures of little Black slaves dancing happily in front of George Washington as if they were happy to be slaves. That's a lie. So teach the truth so that when kids come out of high school, they understand what minorities in the Black community have gone through. Remember, there was one time when we weren't even considered full humans.
And that wasn't even that long ago. You know what I'm saying? This is generations of, like, maybe my grandparents were there for it. You know, people that we've known were alive for all this, and that's why we really have to change our mindset and how we see people and individuals on an eye-to-eye level. Is there something you look like you definitely wanted to comment?
No. Look, I mean, one of the rules that I follow in my life, and I try to educate, I mentor, new young businessmen coming up. And I tell them, do not focus on history, because you are not moving in that direction. Focus on the future. That's the direction you want to go. If you want to go look backwards and focus on those lessons, you're never going to be able to
Use
move.
those lessons to do better
Yeah.
is what you have to
Look at
look at
them,
history.
acknowledge them, but don't fixate on them. Fixate on the future. Moms, dads, teach your freaking children and make sure that they understand good from bad. These are the seeds that we have to sow in order for our future to be brighter. And understand one more thing. A lot of this shit is politics. There are players in our government that are instrumentally aggravating and inciting this whole thing that we're going on in order to create more racial tension. Understand you're being manipulated by the government, by people who you will never see or hear their faces. And it's being okayed by senators and politicians. They know what's going on, they turn a blind eye. Know what you're dealing with.
So the last thing we need to talk about is voting, because we need to vote racist sheriffs out. We need to vote racist prosecutors and DAs out of office. People with pure hearts and good intentions and fair intentions need to be in those positions so they can help enact and make change to these laws. You said earlier in one of your opening statements that America is a great country. I think the idea of America is great. I don't think I would have had the opportunities that I've had in any other country, but I wish I had those opportunities without the racism and everything else that I went through, right? So I do think America is a good country. But when we keep saying America is great, we are doing it a disservice, because America is on the lowest totem pole in everything, in education, in mathematics, in science.
Because we
in this.
became a community of consumers instead of capitalism. Now, no president is going to be able to change racism by themselves. It starts with the American people of all colors. I'm not going to lie, I live a wonderful life. I have earned every single thing that I have, as you do.
But I benefit from the same things. But damn that. Damn money, damn advancement if my people have to keep suffering. So that's the difference between me and a white person. You have the privilege to vote with your pockets. I have to vote with my conscience and my life.
But that is why we are having this conversation, and we don't want it to be perfect. We don't want it to be clean. We want it to get a little heated, because when we get heated and we have peaceful conversations and respect, that is what makes a difference. And that is why we did this today, especially with two really powerful CEOs in the DMV. I want to thank you guys for coming in so much. It means the world to me. I hope people that are watching feel more enlightened, and this was super touching for me. Once again, Howie, Joy, thank you so much for freaking being here. I appreciate you with all my heart. Once again, I'm Joy Jewell, guys. Thanks so much. And we are in Future History Labs. Thanks to Aaron. Thanks to E-Man.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for making it happen.
Thanks for having us, Joy.